They say blood is thicker than water, but my sister Maya proved that some people will drown you in both. She destroyed my career, stole my dreams, and left me with nothing but debt and humiliation. But 5 years later, when I walked into that boardroom as the new Mrs. Richardson, owner of the company that fired me, I watched her face turn white as she realized her worst nightmare had just become her new reality. This is the story of how my sister ruined my life, and how I made sure she'd spend the rest of hers working under me. I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from. And if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. My name is Lauren Wilson, and until I turned 25, I genuinely believed my older sister Maya and I were best friends. We shared everything: clothes, secrets, dreams about the future. She was the golden child who could do no wrong, while I was the quiet one who worked twice as hard for half the recognition. But I didn't mind. I loved her. Fresh out of college with my marketing degree, I landed what felt like the opportunity of a lifetime at Richardson Industries, one of Seattle's most prestigious consulting firms. The salary was incredible, the benefits were amazing, and the corner office they promised me after my probationary period would have been my first real taste of success. I was so proud when I called Maya to tell her the news. "Richardson Industries?" she said, and I could hear something strange in her voice. Wow, Lauren. That's a big deal. I know, right? I start Monday. I'm so nervous but excited. This could change everything for me. There was a pause. Yeah, it really could. I should have paid attention to that tone. My first day was everything I'd hoped for. The office was sleek and modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay. My supervisor, Jennifer Martinez, was warm and encouraging, explaining that I'd be working directly with clients on rebranding campaigns. It was exactly what I'd studied for, what I'd dreamed about during those long nights in the library. "You'll love it here," Jennifer told me as she showed me to my temporary desk. "We're like family." And speaking of family, I have to tell you, your references were absolutely glowing. Especially the one from Maya Wilson. She spoke so highly of your work ethic and creativity. My heart swelled with gratitude toward my sister. She'd put in a good word for me at her marketing job downtown, and it had clearly made a difference. The first few weeks flew by in a blur of client meetings, campaign strategies, and late-night brainstorming sessions. I was thriving. My ideas were being implemented, clients were responding positively, and Jennifer had already started hinting about fast-tracking my promotion to that corner office. It was during my third week that I first met Marcus Richardson. I was working late, fine-tuning a presentation for a major client, when the elevator dinged and out stepped the most striking man I'd ever seen. Tall, dark hair with just a touch of gray at the temples, wearing a perfectly tailored navy suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. He had the kind of presence that made the entire office feel smaller just by walking into it. "You must be Lauren Wilson," he said, extending his hand. His smile was warm, but there was something assessing in his dark eyes. "I'm Marcus Richardson. I've been hearing impressive things about your work." "Mr. Richardson," I stammered, suddenly very aware that I was still in the same blouse I'd worn to the office 12 hours earlier. I wasn't expecting... Thank you. I love working here. Please call me Marcus. And the feeling is mutual. Your campaign for the Henderson Group was exactly what they needed. Fresh perspective, innovative approach. That's not easy to find. We talked for 20 minutes about marketing strategies and industry trends. He was brilliant, asking questions that challenged my thinking and offering insights that made me see problems from entirely new angles. When he finally glanced at his Rolex and mentioned he had to leave, I felt genuinely disappointed. "I'd love to continue this conversation sometime," he said as he gathered his briefcase. "Maybe over dinner? I'm always interested in hearing from our rising stars." I agreed before my brain could catch up with my mouth. That dinner changed my life. Marcus was nothing like the corporate executives I'd imagined. Stuffy, self-important, boring. He was funny, charming, and genuinely interested in my thoughts and opinions. He told me about building his company from the ground up after his father's death, about the mistakes he'd made and the lessons he'd learned. I found myself sharing things I'd never told anyone, about my dreams of running my own marketing firm someday, about growing up in Maya's shadow, about wanting to prove that I was capable of extraordinary things. You know what I think? He said as we shared dessert at an intimate restaurant in Capitol Hill. I think you're already extraordinary. You just need to start believing it. When he kissed me goodnight at my apartment door, I felt like I was floating. Maya was waiting in my living room when I walked inside, scrolling through her phone on my couch. There you are, she said without looking up. I was starting to worry. You weren't answering your texts. Sorry, I was at dinner. What are you doing here? Can't a sister visit? She finally looked at me and her eyes narrowed slightly. You look different, flushed. Good dinner? It was nice. I kicked off my heels, trying to play it casual. Just a work thing. Maya stood up, smoothing down her designer dress. She always dressed better than me, had better taste, more confidence. Well, I actually came by to tell you some exciting news. I got a promotion at work. Senior marketing director. Maya, that's amazing. Congratulations. I hugged her, genuinely happy despite my own excitement about Marcus. Thanks. It means more responsibility, bigger clients. Actually, I might be able to help you out even more now, you know? With connections and networking opportunities. I should have wondered why she felt the need to help me when my own career was already taking off. I should have questioned the calculating look in her eyes. But I was too caught up in my own happiness to notice the warning signs. Over the next month, Marcus and I grew closer. He was unlike anyone I'd ever dated. Sophisticated, successful, but also surprisingly vulnerable when he talked about the pressure of running his family's company. We had dinner twice a week, long conversations that stretched past midnight, stolen moments in his office when I'd stay late to work on projects. I was falling in love, and I was pretty sure he was too. I wanted to tell Maya about Marcus, but something held me back. Maybe it was the way she'd been acting lately, more interested in my work life, asking detailed questions about my projects and clients, showing up at my apartment unannounced. She seemed different somehow, more intense, like she was watching me for something. The night everything changed, I was working late again, putting the finishing touches on a campaign proposal that could secure Richardson Industries' biggest client ever. Marcus had trusted me with the entire project, and I was determined to prove his faith in me wasn't misplaced. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya. Emergency at home. Need you here now. My heart raced as I imagined all the terrible things that could have happened to our parents. I saved my work, grabbed my things, and rushed to Maya's downtown apartment. The door was unlocked when I arrived, which should have been my first red flag. I called her name as I hurried inside, but the apartment was dark and quiet. I was about to call out again when I heard voices from the bedroom. Maya's voice. And a man's voice I recognized. Marcus's voice. I stood frozen in the hallway, my brain refusing to process what I was hearing. They weren't just talking. The sounds coming from that room made it crystal clear what was happening. God, Maya, I've missed this, Marcus was saying, his voice rough with desire. It's been torture, pretending I don't want you every time I see you at company events. I know, baby, Maya replied, breathless. But we have to be careful. Lauren can't find out about us. Not yet. Your little sister is sweet, but she's not you. She could never be you. The words hit me like physical blows. I stumbled backward, my shoulder hitting the wall, and a framed photo crashed to the floor. The sounds from the bedroom stopped abruptly. What was that? Maya's voice was sharp with panic. I didn't wait to find out if they would come investigate. I ran. I ran down the stairs, through the lobby, into the Seattle rain, tears streaming down my face as the truth crashed over me in waves. Maya and Marcus had been together this entire time. My promotion, my job, his interest in me. It had all been some sick game they were playing. I was the joke, the clueless little sister who thought she'd finally found success and love, when really I was just entertainment for them. But as I sat in my car outside Maya's building, rain pounding on the windshield, I realized this was only the beginning of how deeply they'd betrayed me. Because tomorrow, I'd discover that losing Marcus was the least of my problems. A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now back to where we left off. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Marcus's voice saying those words. She could never be you. By morning, I'd convinced myself that maybe I'd misunderstood something, that there had to be an explanation that didn't involve my sister and my boyfriend orchestrating the cruelest deception imaginable. I arrived at Richardson Industries early, hoping to catch Marcus before anyone else got in. I needed to look him in the eye and ask him directly what was happening. But when I reached the executive floor, his assistant informed me he'd flown to Portland for emergency client meetings and wouldn't be back until Friday. 3 days. I had to wait 3 days to get answers. Those 3 days were torture. I threw myself into my work, trying to distract myself from the images burned into my mind. Maya called twice, but I let it go to voicemail. Her messages were casual, asking about dinner plans and whether I wanted to go shopping this weekend. She sounded completely normal, as if she hadn't just destroyed my world. Jennifer noticed my distraction during our Thursday team meeting. "Lauren, are you feeling all right? You seem a million miles away." "Just tired," I lied. "I've been putting in extra hours on the Morrison campaign." "Well, maybe ease up a bit." "You've been working yourself to death lately, and we need you fresh for next week's presentation to the Peterson Group. Marcus specifically requested that you lead it." The mention of his name sent a fresh wave of nausea through me, but I managed to nod and smile. Friday morning, I stationed myself in the lobby at 7 a.m., waiting for Marcus to arrive. When he walked through the revolving doors at 8:15, looking impeccable as always in his charcoal gray suit, my heart hammered against my ribs. "Lauren," he said when he saw me, and his smile seemed genuine. "You're here early. Everything okay? I need to talk to you. Privately." Something flickered across his face, so quickly I almost missed it. "Of course. Let me just grab some coffee and we can chat in my office." I followed him to the elevator, studying his profile, searching for any sign of guilt or deception. He seemed perfectly at ease, making small talk about the weather and asking about my weekend plans. His office was on the top floor, with panoramic views of the Seattle skyline. I'd been here several times over the past month, but today it felt foreign, intimidating. He closed the door behind us and gestured to the leather chairs by his desk. "So what's on your mind?" I took a deep breath. I was at Maya's apartment Wednesday night. I heard voices from her bedroom. One of them was yours. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Marcus didn't deny it, didn't look surprised, didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. He just watched me with those dark eyes, calculating. "I see," he said finally. "That's it? That's all you have to say?" He leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. "What would you like me to say, Lauren?" "I'd like you to explain why you've been sleeping with my sister while pretending to date me. I'd like you to tell me why you made me believe there was something real between us, when apparently I was just some kind of sick joke." "You weren't a joke," he said quietly. "You were a complication." The word hit me like a slap. "A complication?" "Maya and I have been together for 2 years. We met at a networking event downtown. She's brilliant, ambitious, everything I look for in a partner. But she has some trust issues, particularly when it comes to her family." "What does that have to do with me?" "She was convinced that if you ever got too successful, too confident, you'd try to compete with her for everything. Jobs, men, opportunities. She said you'd always been jealous of her achievements, that you'd do anything to surpass her." I stared at him in disbelief. "That's not true. I've never tried to compete with Maya. I've always supported her." "Maybe. But she was worried about your new position here, about how quickly you were advancing. She asked me to keep an eye on you, to make sure you weren't going to become a threat to her career." "So you decided to seduce me?" "I decided to get to know you. And yes, along the way I found myself attracted to you. You're intelligent, creative, genuinely passionate about your work. But Maya is the woman I love." Each word was a knife twisting deeper. "Why are you telling me this?" Because Maya thinks you're becoming too comfortable here. Too confident. She's concerned that your success might interfere with some opportunities she has coming up. What opportunities? Marcus stood up and walked to his window, hands clasped behind his back. She's been offered the senior marketing director position at Richardson Industries. It's a significant promotion from her current job, and it would put her in charge of our entire marketing department. The room spun around me. My department. Your department would fall under her supervision, yes. And Jennifer? What happened to Jennifer? Jennifer Martinez will be transferred to our Portland office. It's actually a lateral move for her, possibly even a step up. I felt like I was drowning. When does this happen? Maya starts Monday. 3 days from now. I tried to process what this meant. My sister would be my boss, would have control over my projects, my advancement, my entire career trajectory. After what I'd discovered about their relationship, the thought made my skin crawl. Does she know that that you and I? She knows I took you to dinner a few times. She doesn't know about the rest. The rest. He turned to face me, and for the first time, I saw something that might have been regret in his expression. Lauren, what happened between us? It wasn't supposed to happen. I meant to keep things professional, but you made that difficult. I made it difficult? You're not like other women I've met in business. You're genuine, unguarded. When you told me about your dreams, about wanting to build something meaningful, I admired that. I still do. But not enough to choose me over her. Maya and I have built something together. We understand each other's ambitions. Our goals align. What you and I had was beautiful, but it wasn't practical. I stood up on shaking legs. Practical. I'm sorry, Lauren. I really am. I hope we can maintain a professional relationship going forward. You're talented enough to thrive here under Maya's leadership. The condescension in his voice snapped something inside me. Under Maya's leadership? After everything you just told me, you expect me to work for her? I expect you to be professional. This is business, Lauren. Personal feelings don't have a place here. I stared at him for a long moment. This man who had made me believe I was special, who had kissed me and held me, and listened to my dreams with such apparent fascination. Now he stood there in his expensive suit, dismissing what we'd shared as if it meant nothing. You're right, I said quietly. This is business. And I quit. Lauren, don't be dramatic. You have a good future here if you— I quit, I repeated louder this time. I won't work for either of you. I walked toward the door, but his voice stopped me. If you quit now, you'll forfeit your signing bonus. And I'm sure you remember the non-compete clause in your contract. You won't be able to work for any competing firm in Seattle for 18 months. I turned back to him, and the satisfied smirk on his face told me everything I needed to know. This had all been planned. Every detail, every cruelty, every humiliation, they had orchestrated all of it. Why? I whispered. Why go to all this trouble just to destroy me? I didn't want to destroy you, Lauren. I wanted to neutralize you. Maya was right. You were becoming a threat. This way, everyone gets what they want. Everyone except me. You'll land on your feet. You're resilient. I walked out of his office, past his assistant, past Jennifer's concerned questions, past the co-workers who called my name as I packed my personal items into a cardboard box. I walked out of Richardson Industries with my dignity in tatters and my future in ruins. But as I sat in my car in the parking lot, watching through the windows as Maya arrived for what was probably her first official day, I made myself a promise. This wasn't over. Not even close. The 18-month non-compete clause felt like a prison sentence. While Maya settled into her corner office at Richardson Industries, I watched my savings dwindle and my confidence crumble. The marketing world in Seattle was smaller than I'd realized. Word traveled fast about my sudden departure, and Marcus had been strategic about the story he told. Creative differences, he'd explained to industry contacts who asked. Lauren Wilson is talented, but she wasn't quite ready for the demands of our client base. The subtle assassination of my professional reputation was masterful. He never said anything overtly damaging, nothing I could challenge or dispute. But the implication was clear. I'd been in over my head and couldn't handle the pressure. Maya, meanwhile, thrived. Her LinkedIn updates were a constant reminder of my failure. Awards for innovative campaigns, photos from client dinners, announcements of new team hires. She posted about building something extraordinary with an amazing team and the importance of surrounding yourself with people who share your vision. She never mentioned me at all. The few times she called, her voice was saccharine with false concern. "Lauren, honey, I've been worried about you. You haven't been returning my calls." "I've been busy," I'd lie, staring at the stack of rejection letters on my kitchen table. "Busy with what? I thought you weren't working right now." The casual cruelty of it was breathtaking. She knew exactly what she'd done to me, but she wanted to hear me admit how thoroughly I'd been destroyed. "I'm exploring my options." "Well, you know I'm always here if you need advice. I've learned so much about the industry since taking this position. Did I tell you Marcus promoted me to VP of Marketing? Youngest in the company's history." By month 6, I was waitressing at a diner in Belltown, serving coffee to tech workers and tourists, while my marketing degree gathered dust. The irony wasn't lost on me. Some of my customers were probably people I'd pitched campaigns to just months earlier. It was during one particularly brutal lunch rush that everything changed. I was refilling coffee for a businessman in an expensive suit when I heard him talking on his phone about needing to find a new marketing consultant for his company's rebranding project. "The agency we were using just isn't cutting it," he was saying. "We need someone who understands both traditional marketing and digital strategy, someone who can think outside the box." During my break, I approached his table with my heart hammering. "Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I couldn't help overhearing your conversation about marketing consulting." He looked up from his laptop, slightly annoyed at the interruption. "I have a background in marketing," I continued quickly. "I know this isn't exactly professional circumstances, but I'd love to discuss your project if you're interested." Something in my tone must have caught his attention, because he gestured to the empty chair across from him. "David Chen," he said, extending his hand. "I own a chain of boutique fitness studios. What's your background?" I told him about my education, my brief time at Richardson Industries, and my ideas for positioning fitness brands in an oversaturated market. I was rusty from months of unemployment, but the passion was still there, buried under layers of disappointment and humiliation. "You know what?" David said after I'd finished my impromptu pitch. "I like your energy. Are you available for freelance work?" That conversation changed everything. David's fitness studio rebrand was a huge success. Membership increased by 40% in the first quarter after launch. He referred me to another client, then another. Within 6 months, I was booking more freelance work than I could handle, but I was careful. I worked with smaller companies, startups, businesses that weren't on Richardson Industries' radar. I kept my head down and my profile low, building a client base while staying under the non-compete radar. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. I was working late in the small office space I'd rented in Georgetown when my phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. "Lauren Wilson? This is Catherine Walsh from Walsh & Associates. I wonder if we could meet to discuss a potential opportunity." Catherine Walsh was legendary in Seattle business circles, a corporate lawyer who specialized in mergers and acquisitions. Her client list read like a who's who of Pacific Northwest business titans. I had no idea why she'd be calling me. We met at an upscale restaurant in downtown Seattle. Catherine was a woman in her 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "I've been hearing interesting things about your work," she said after we'd ordered. "David Chen speaks very highly of you. So do several other business owners in the city. I appreciate that, but I'm not sure why. I represent a client who's interested in acquiring Richardson Industries." My blood turned to ice. "I see. My client has been watching the company for some time. Marcus Richardson has built something impressive. But there are some concerns about the leadership structure and recent strategic decisions." She paused to sip her wine, studying my reaction. "We've done extensive research on the company's key personnel. Your name came up repeatedly in our investigation. Former employees speak very highly of your work there. They also have some interesting things to say about the circumstances of your departure. I'm not sure I'm comfortable discussing. Lauren, let me be direct. My client is prepared to make an offer for Richardson Industries. If successful, there would be significant changes to the management structure. We're looking for someone with insider knowledge and proven marketing expertise to help guide the transition. Who's your client? Catherine smiled. Someone who believes Richardson Industries has untapped potential that's being limited by its current leadership. Someone who values talent over politics. She slid a business card across the table. The name embossed on it made my heart stop. Harrison Global Enterprises. Robert Harrison was a corporate acquisition specialist who'd made his fortune buying undervalued companies, restructuring them and turning them into industry leaders. If he was targeting Richardson Industries, Marcus's carefully built empire was about to crumble. What exactly would my role be? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Strategic consulting during the acquisition process. If the purchase goes through, you'd be offered a senior position in the new management structure. Possibly even heading up the entire marketing division. And Marcus Richardson would likely be retained in an advisory capacity, if he chose to stay. Most acquired executives find they prefer to pursue other opportunities. The elegant way she phrased Marcus would be fired almost made me smile. There's something else, Catherine continued. Mr. Harrison believes in promoting from within when possible. He's particularly interested in identifying talented individuals who may have been overlooked or undervalued by previous management. Are you offering me Marcus's job? I'm offering you the opportunity to show us what you're truly capable of. What happens after that depends entirely on your performance. I thought about Maya in her corner office, about the awards on her desk, about the way she'd systematically destroyed my career while building her own. I thought about Marcus's cold dismissal, his casual cruelty, his assumption that I'd simply fade away quietly. When will this acquisition happen? The preliminary offer goes in next week. If accepted, the transition would take approximately 6 months. We'd need your answer by Monday. That weekend, I barely slept. The rational part of my brain knew this could be career suicide. If the acquisition fell through, I'd be blacklisted from the Seattle business community permanently. But the part of me that had been humiliated, dismissed, and discarded was hungry for justice. On Monday morning, I called Catherine Walsh. I'm in, I said. Excellent. There's one more thing, Lauren. Mr. Harrison prefers to keep his acquisition team's involvement confidential until the deal closes. Can you handle working behind the scenes for several months without recognition? I thought about Maya's smug LinkedIn posts, about Marcus's condescending smile, about the 18 months I'd spent rebuilding my life from scratch. I've had plenty of practice being underestimated, I said. I think I can manage a few more months. What I didn't tell Catherine was that those months wouldn't be about staying hidden. They'd be about preparation, planning, and making sure that when the moment came to reveal myself, Maya and Marcus would understand exactly how thoroughly they'd underestimated Lauren Wilson. Working as Harrison Global's inside consultant felt like leading a double life. During the day, I maintained my freelance marketing business, taking meetings with small clients and building my legitimate reputation. But my evenings belonged to a different kind of work entirely. Catherine Walsh had provided me with everything I needed: Richardson Industries financial records, internal communications, client contracts, and employee satisfaction surveys. What I discovered in those documents was even better than I'd hoped. Marcus Richardson wasn't the business genius he pretended to be. The company was hemorrhaging money on vanity projects and overpaid executives. Client retention was at an all-time low, with several major accounts threatening to leave due to poor campaign performance. Most damaging of all, there were emails between Marcus and his board of directors discussing the need to find a scapegoat for the company's declining profits. Maya's name appeared frequently in those conversations, but not in the way she would have wanted. Wilson's marketing initiatives have been expensive failures. Marcus had written to board member Thomas Burke. The Peterson campaign she spearheaded lost us our biggest client. We may need to consider restructuring the marketing department entirely. Another email, dated just 2 weeks earlier. Maya Wilson's leadership style has created significant HR issues. 3 employees have filed complaints about her management approach. Legal is advising us to document everything in case we need to make changes. I printed out every damaging email, every failed campaign report, every client complaint that had Maya's signature on it. Harrison Global would need ammunition for the acquisition, and I was building them an arsenal. But the most interesting discovery came from Richardson's IT security logs. Maya had been accessing Marcus's personal email account and calendar from her work computer. She'd also been forwarding confidential client information to her personal email address, a serious breach of company policy that could result in immediate termination and potential legal action. I smiled as I compiled the evidence. Maya thought she was so clever, playing corporate politics and covering her tracks, but she'd been sloppy, arrogant. She'd assumed no one was watching carefully enough to catch her mistakes. The preliminary acquisition offer went public on a Tuesday morning in October. I was in my Georgetown office when my phone started buzzing with news alerts. Richardson Industries' stock price jumped 15% in the first hour of trading as investors speculated about the potential sale. Maya called me that afternoon, her voice tight with stress. "Lauren, have you seen the news about Richardson Industries? I saw something about an acquisition offer. Congratulations, I guess. That must be exciting." "Exciting?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Lauren, if this goes through, there could be massive layoffs. New management always brings in their own people. I'm sure you'll be fine. You're VP of marketing now, right? That's pretty secure." "Nothing's secure in an acquisition. God, I can't believe this is happening just when everything was going so well." I had to bite my tongue to keep from laughing. "How's Marcus handling it?" "He's stressed. The board is putting a lot of pressure on him to consider the offer seriously. Apparently, Harrison Global has been watching us for months, building a case for why the company would be more profitable under their management." "Do you think he'll sell?" "He doesn't want to, but the board has ultimate authority. If they think it's in the shareholders' best interests." She trailed off, then seemed to remember who she was talking to. "Anyway, enough about my work drama. How are you doing? Still waiting tables?" The casual cruelty was so practiced, so automatic that I almost admired it. "Actually, I've been doing some freelance marketing work. It's been going really well. That's nice. Small businesses, I assume. Very different from corporate consulting, but everyone has to start somewhere." Something like that. After she hung up, I called Catherine Walsh. "The board meeting is tomorrow," Catherine told me. "Harrison Global's team will be presenting their formal offer. We've incorporated your research into our proposal. The financial projections showing improved performance under new leadership are quite compelling." "What about the personnel changes?" "That's where things get interesting. Mr. Harrison has reviewed your recommendations about staff restructuring. He's particularly interested in your assessment of current management capabilities." I'd spent weeks preparing those assessments, carefully documenting every failure, every poor decision, every instance of nepotism and incompetence I could find. Maya's file was particularly thorough. "The board wants to maintain continuity where possible," Catherine continued, "but they're also committed to improving performance. Some changes will be inevitable. When will we know the outcome?" "The board votes Friday morning. If they accept the offer, the transition begins immediately." Friday morning, I sat in my office refreshing news websites every few minutes. At 11:47 a.m., the announcement came through. Richardson Industries' board of directors had unanimously accepted Harrison Global's acquisition offer. My phone rang 30 seconds later. "Lauren, it's Catherine. Congratulations. You're about to become very busy. The transition period was a masterclass in corporate warfare. Harrison Global's team moved through Richardson Industries like surgeons, identifying inefficiencies and making precise cuts. I was officially brought on as a strategic consultant to help with the marketing department evaluation, though my real role was much more significant. Marcus fought the changes every step of the way, but he was contractually obligated to cooperate with the transition team. Watching him try to maintain his authority while his empire crumbled around him was almost as satisfying as what I had planned for Maya. The first round of restructuring eliminated 3 vice president positions, including 2 of Maya's closest allies on the executive team. The writing was on the wall, but Maya still didn't see it coming. She invited me to lunch the week before Thanksgiving, apparently needing someone to vent to about the corporate chaos at Richardson Industries. "These Harrison Global people are ruthless," she complained over her salad. "They're questioning everything, every campaign, every budget decision, every hire I've made. It's like they think we don't know how to run our own company. Maybe they're just trying to understand the business better before making changes. They're looking for excuses to fire people, Lauren. That's what this is about. They want to bring in their own team and save money on salaries." "Are you worried about your position?" Maya's confidence faltered for just a moment. "I mean, I've delivered results. My campaigns have been successful. The Peterson account was challenging, but that wasn't entirely my fault. There were budget constraints and unrealistic timelines." I nodded sympathetically, remembering the emails where Marcus had specifically blamed her for losing that client. "Besides," Maya continued, "Marcus has been incredibly supportive. He knows my value to the company. If anyone's going to survive this transition, it's me." The delusion was breathtaking. She genuinely believed Marcus would protect her, even though I'd seen the documents where he'd been systematically building a case against her for months. "I'm sure you're right," I said. "You've always been good at landing on your feet." "Exactly. Actually, there might be opportunities in all this chaos. If they're restructuring the marketing department, there could be room for growth. Maybe even a promotion to senior vice president." She was still talking about promotions and growth opportunities, completely oblivious to the fact that her termination letter was already being drafted in Harrison, Global's legal department. But the best part was still coming. Catherine had scheduled my official introduction to the Richardson Industries team for the first Monday in December. I would be presented as Harrison Global's new director of strategic marketing, brought in to oversee the department's reorganization and future growth. Maya still had no idea. I was involved with the acquisition. She was about to discover that her little sister, the one she'd dismissed as weak, unambitious and easily manipulated, had just become her new boss. The irony was perfect. Maya had always believed she was smarter, more ruthless, more deserving of success. She'd destroyed my career because she saw me as competition, never imagining I could become an actual threat. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated exactly how much I'd learned from watching her operate, and I'd learned very, very well. Monday morning arrived with Seattle's typical December drizzle. I stood outside the Richardson Industries building at 8:45 a.m., wearing my best navy suit and carrying a leather briefcase that contained everything I needed to destroy Maya's career the same way she'd destroyed mine. Catherine Walsh met me in the lobby, flanked by 2 other Harrison Global executives I hadn't met before. "Ready for this?" she asked, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. I've been ready for 2 years. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt eternal. I thought about the last time I'd been in this building, packing my personal items into a cardboard box while Maya prepared to take over my department. Today, I was walking back in as her superior. The conference room was packed when we arrived. Marcus sat at the head of the table, his jaw tight with barely controlled anger. Around him were the remaining members of his management team, including Maya, who was checking her phone and looking bored. She glanced up when Catherine entered the room, then did a double take when she saw me behind her. "Lauren?" Maya's voice cracked slightly. "What are you doing here?" "Ladies and gentlemen," Catherine announced, ignoring Maya's question, "I'd like to introduce Harrison Global's new director of strategic marketing, Lauren Wilson. She'll be overseeing the restructuring of your marketing department and evaluating current personnel for retention." The silence in the room was deafening. Marcus's face went white. Maya looked like she'd been slapped. "This is impossible," Marcus said, standing up abruptly. "There has to be some mistake. Lauren Wilson was terminated from this company for performance issues." "Actually," I said, speaking for the first time, "I resigned. And according to Harrison Global's investigation, my performance was exemplary. It was the management of this department that was found lacking. I opened my briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. Over the past 6 months, Harrison Global has conducted a comprehensive audit of Richardson Industries' operations. What we discovered was a pattern of nepotism, financial mismanagement, and ethical violations that have cost this company millions in lost revenue and damaged reputation. Maya finally found her voice. This is insane. Lauren, what the hell is going on? How are you even involved with Harrison Global? I've been working as their strategic consultant since the acquisition began, I replied calmly. My job was to assess the company's management structure and identify areas for improvement. You've been spying on us? I've been doing my job. The same job you made sure I couldn't do here 2 years ago. Marcus leaned forward, his hands pressed flat against the conference table. This is revenge, pure and simple. You can't make business decisions based on personal grudges. You're absolutely right, I agreed. That's why every recommendation I've made is based purely on documented performance, metrics, and policy violations. I slid a file across the table to Maya. This contains records of your unauthorized access to executive email accounts, your forwarding of confidential client information to personal email addresses, and documentation of the 3 HR complaints filed against you for hostile management practices. Maya opened the file, her face growing paler with each page she turned. Where did you get this? Company security logs, IT records, HR files, all standard documentation that any competent audit would uncover. I turned to address the room. The Peterson Group account, which this company lost last year, was mismanaged from the beginning. The client complained repeatedly about missed deadlines, budget overruns, and communication failures. Despite these issues, the project continued under Maya Wilson's direct supervision until the client terminated their contract. That wasn't my fault, Maya protested. There were budget constraints. The budget was approved as proposed, I interrupted. The overruns occurred due to poor project management and failure to maintain client communication standards. I have the email chains documenting every missed deadline and client complaint. Marcus looked desperate. Even if there were some management issues, Maya has been with this company for over 2 years. She knows our systems, our clients. She knows how to access executive email accounts without authorization, I said sharply. She knows how to forward confidential client information to her personal accounts. She knows how to create a hostile work environment that results in formal HR complaints. Is that the kind of institutional knowledge Harrison Global should value? The other executives around the table were taking notes, exchanging glances, clearly seeing which way the wind was blowing. Marcus's support was evaporating in real time. Lauren, Maya said, her voice dropping to almost a whisper, we need to talk, privately. This is getting out of hand. I think we're well past private conversations. Maya, this is a business meeting about business decisions. But we're sisters. Were we sisters when you conspired with Marcus to destroy my career? Were we sisters when you orchestrated my humiliation and forced me out of this company? The room fell silent. Several executives looked confused, clearly unaware of the personal history behind the corporate warfare they were witnessing. Catherine Walsh stepped forward. Based on Ms. Wilson's audit and Harrison Global's assessment, we're implementing immediate personnel changes. Maya Wilson's position as VP of Marketing is terminated, effective today. You can't do this, Maya gasped. Marcus, tell them they can't do this. Marcus wouldn't meet her eyes. The board has given Harrison Global full authority over staffing decisions. But what about us? What about our relationship? The desperation in her voice was pathetic. She was still clinging to the belief that Marcus would protect her, even as he threw her under the bus to save himself. Maya, Marcus said carefully, our personal relationship has no bearing on business decisions. I almost laughed at the irony. 2 years ago, he'd used those exact words to dismiss our relationship when it became inconvenient. Now he was using them against Maya. Security will escort you out, Catherine continued. Your access to all company systems has been revoked, and legal will be in touch regarding the policy violations documented in your file. Maya turned to me. her eyes filled with tears and rage. You planned this, all of it. The acquisition, the audit, everything. I planned to rebuild my career after you destroyed it, I said. Harrison Global's interest in this company was completely separate from my involvement. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time with the right qualifications. This is revenge. These are consequences. There's a difference. Security arrived to escort Maya out. As she gathered her personal items, she kept looking at me as if she couldn't quite believe what was happening. "Lauren?" she said as security guided her toward the elevator. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is," I replied. "It's been over since the day you decided to betray me. You just didn't know it yet." The elevator doors closed on her tear-streaked face. After Maya left, Catherine addressed the remaining staff. "Lauren Wilson will be taking over all marketing operations immediately. We expect full cooperation with the transition." As the meeting broke up, Marcus lingered behind. "Congratulations," he said bitterly. "You got what you wanted." "Actually, I got what I earned." "There's a difference, is there?" "Because from where I'm standing, this looks like an elaborate revenge scheme dressed up as corporate restructuring. From where you're standing, you're about to lose your company because you prioritized personal relationships over business competence. Maybe focus on that instead of analyzing my motivations." He stared at me for a long moment, then shook his head. "You've changed, Lauren. You used to be kind. I used to be naive. You and Maya taught me better." As I watched him walk away, I felt something I hadn't experienced in 2 years: complete professional satisfaction. Not revenge, not cruelty, just the simple pleasure of being exactly where I belonged. I had my career back. I had my respect back. And tomorrow, I'd start the work of rebuilding the department Maya had nearly destroyed. But first, I had one more conversation to have. The conversation I needed to have wasn't with Marcus. It was with Robert Harrison himself. At 6 p.m. that evening, I sat across from the man who'd made my revenge possible in his penthouse office overlooking Puget Sound. Robert Harrison was in his 50s, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, with the kind of presence that commanded respect without demanding it. "That was quite a performance today," he said, pouring himself a scotch from a crystal decanter. "Catherine said Maya Wilson looked like she'd seen a ghost when you walked into that conference room. She wasn't expecting me." "I imagine not. Tell me, Lauren, how does it feel to be back where you belong?" "Satisfying. But I have questions about what happens next." Robert leaned back in his leather chair, studying me with the calculating gaze that had made him one of the most successful acquisition specialists on the West Coast. "Ask away." Marcus Richardson still has his position. He was equally responsible for what happened to me, but he's remaining as CEO under the new structure. Why? Because Marcus Richardson, for all his personal failings, understands this company's operations better than anyone. He has relationships with key clients, knows the industry landscape, and frankly, his departure would create more instability than his retention. Even though he showed the same poor judgment as Maya, Marcus made a mistake in trusting Maya's assessment of you. But his business decisions, apart from the marketing department issues, have been sound. Maya, on the other hand, was a liability in multiple areas. I sipped my wine, considering this. "So I'm expected to work under the man who orchestrated my professional humiliation?" "You're expected to be professional enough to separate personal grievances from business necessities. Can you do that?" The directness of the question caught me off guard. "I think so. Because if you can't, I need to know now. Harrison Global doesn't invest in companies to settle personal scores. We invest to make money. Your value to us is your marketing expertise and your knowledge of Richardson Industries operations, not your desire for revenge. Understood. Good. Now, let me tell you what I really brought you here to discuss." He stood and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Richardson Industries has potential far beyond what Marcus realized. The client base is solid, the brand recognition is strong, but the growth strategy has been conservative to the point of stagnation. I believe this company could triple its revenue within 5 years with the right leadership. What kind of leadership? Someone who understands both the traditional consulting model and the digital marketing revolution. Someone who can rebuild client relationships while expanding into new markets. Someone who has something to prove. He turned back to face me, and I saw the calculation in his eyes. Marcus Richardson will remain as CEO for 18 months while the company stabilizes. After that, Harrison Global will be looking for new leadership. Someone who's demonstrated they can turn the marketing department into a profit center. The implication was clear. This wasn't just about revenge or even redemption. It was about opportunity. Robert Harrison was offering me a path to eventually run the entire company that had once discarded me. What would that look like? Complete transformation? New service offerings? Expanded client base? Possibly even acquisitions of smaller consulting firms. Richardson Industries could become the dominant marketing consultancy in the Pacific Northwest. And if I succeed? You become CEO of a company worth $50 million instead of the $20 million we paid for it. You get equity, profit sharing, and complete operational control. I felt my pulse quicken. This was bigger than anything Maya had ever achieved. Bigger than any revenge I could have imagined. What about Marcus when his 18 months are up? That depends entirely on how well you perform and how cooperative he is during the transition. If he's an asset, we keep him in an advisory role. If he's an obstacle, Robert didn't need to finish the sentence. Because I want her to understand what it feels like to be completely powerless. I want her to know that I control her future the same way she once controlled mine. Lauren, let me share something I've learned in 30 years of business. The most satisfying victories are the ones where you never have to see your enemies again. When you've moved so far beyond them that they become irrelevant to your life entirely. What do you mean? I mean that Maya Wilson is already finished in this industry. Hiring her keeps her in your orbit, gives her opportunities to cause trouble, and prevents you from moving forward. But if you reject her application, she disappears from your professional life forever. And personally, she becomes a cautionary tale about what happens when you underestimate people. That's a much more powerful message than keeping her around as a daily reminder of past grievances. The next morning, I made my decision. I called the recruiting agency and informed them that Maya Wilson was not suitable for the position. When they asked for feedback, I simply said that her qualifications didn't align with our current needs. Maya called me 3 times that day. I didn't answer any of her calls. 6 months later, I learned through industry contacts that she'd moved to Portland and taken a marketing coordinator position at a small nonprofit for $25,000 a year. She'd effectively disappeared from Seattle's corporate landscape. Marcus Richardson, meanwhile, had proven more adaptable than I'd expected. He implemented my strategic recommendations without argument, supported my department expansion proposals, and gradually began treating me as a legitimate business partner rather than an unwelcome reminder of his past mistakes. "You know," he said during one of our quarterly reviews, "I owe you an apology." "For what?" "For underestimating you 2 years ago. For allowing personal relationships to cloud my business judgment. For not recognizing your potential when I had the chance. And now? Now I see what Robert Harrison saw when he recruited you. You're going to run this company someday, aren't you?" I smiled. "That's the plan." 18 months after the acquisition, Robert Harrison called me into his office for a conversation I'd been anticipating. "Marcus Richardson has decided to take early retirement," he announced. "He's interested in pursuing some consulting opportunities on the East Coast." "I see. Which means Richardson Industries needs new leadership. The board has reviewed your performance over the past year and a half, and we're unanimously impressed with your results." "What kind of results?" "Revenue is up 47%. Client retention is at an all-time high. You've expanded into 3 new market segments and successfully acquired 2 competing firms. Most importantly, you've transformed the company culture from one of stagnation to one of innovation." He slid a contract across his desk toward me. "Congratulations. CEO Wilson." I stared at the document, hardly believing what I was seeing. 5 years earlier, I'd been a struggling recent graduate grateful for any opportunity. 2 years ago, I'd been humiliated and blacklisted, serving coffee to pay my rent. Now I was being handed control of a $50 million company, There is one condition, Robert continued. Richardson Industries needs a new name, something that reflects its evolution under new leadership. What did you have in mind? That's your decision. It's your company now. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Wilson Strategic Consulting. Perfect. The press release went out the following Monday. By Tuesday, my LinkedIn profile was flooded with congratulations from colleagues, clients, and former classmates. The local business journal ran a feature story about my remarkable rise in the consulting industry. Maya never reached out to congratulate me. Marcus sent a brief email wishing me success and thanking me for helping him understand the importance of recognizing talent regardless of personal history. But the message that meant the most came from Jennifer Martinez. You didn't just get revenge, Lauren. You got justice. And that's so much better. She was right. Revenge would have been hiring Maya just to humiliate her, keeping Marcus around to remind him of his failures, using my power to settle old scores. Justice was building something better than what they'd destroyed. Justice was proving that their assessment of me had been catastrophically wrong. Justice was succeeding so completely that their opinions became irrelevant. As I sat in my new corner office, the same one Maya had occupied, when she was destroying my life, I realized that the best revenge isn't making your enemies suffer, it's making them irrelevant. And Maya Wilson? She was finally completely irrelevant. I had my life back. I had my career back. And I had something neither of them had ever possessed. The knowledge that I'd earned everything I achieved through my own merit, not through manipulation or betrayal, that more than any act of revenge was the real victory. The sister who ruined my life had ultimately given me the greatest gift of all. The motivation to become someone she could never touch, never diminish, and never destroy again. And for that, I was almost grateful. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.